Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Again, back to the lecture number 2. Our second lecture for today is Introduction to Nervous System 2. I hope you are seeing my slides.
Yes, doctor.
Lecture 12, huh?
Yes, true.
Yes. So, what are the objectives of this lecture? What you should learn at the end of this lecture? At the end of this lecture, you should able to list the components of the nervous system. What are the parts? What are the parts of the brain? Not nervous system, but for the brain. What are the parts of the brain? What is cerebrum? What is cerebellum? What is basal ganglia, hypothalamus? So you have to able to list them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are these parts? And the organization, where they are placed and their function of the cerebrum. Cerebrum and cerebellum. These are the different parts: cerebrum, cerebellum, basal ganglia, and brainstem. These are the major parts, bigger parts. Then describe the functional areas of the cerebral cortex. Some functional areas of the cerebral cortex. Okay, so brain component there, it is divided into based on embryological classification, based on position, different types are there. So forebrain. What is the meaning of forebrain? Forebrain means it consists of cerebrum, which is nothing but the bigger part, this part. This is called as cerebrum. This whole thing is called as cerebrum. This is from left side. If you are seeing it from the side, the brain look like this way. The brain look like, if you are seeing from the side, it is like this in this fashion. So it is called as cerebrum. So all this is are folded. These are folded structure. If you see on the brain structure, it is folded and having some something which is called as outer area. If you see anything in medicine, outer we call it as cortex, and the inner we call it as medulla. Outer we call it as the ring which is covering peripherally. We call it as cortex. So here also for this organ also, for this area also, anything which is outer, we call it as cortex, and something which is present in the center, we call them collection of the neurons, or basically nuclei. Collection of neuron is known as nuclei, or collection of the cell bodies of the neuron. Suppose this is a neuron, another neuron, another neuron, another neuron. So this collection is known as nuclei. Collection of the nuclei within the nervous system, we call it as nuclei. Collection of the neuron, same thing. If it is outside the nervous system, what is the name? If suppose this collection is not in the central nervous system, spinal cord or brain, if it is outside, what do you call?
Peripheral, isn't it? Peripheral nervous system.
In peripheral nervous system, the cell bodies of the neuron, if they are collected at one place, what do you call?
Ganglion.
Ganglion. Very good. This is called as ganglion. This is called as nuclei. So nuclei are nothing but the collection of cell bodies of the neuron in the brain. So there is a structure, we call it as basal nuclei, which is here in the center of the cortex, or in the center of the brain matter. There is a collection of some nuclei, we call it as basal nuclei. There is another structure which is called as diencephalon. Diencephalon, which consists of two structures, thalamus and hypothalamus. So just remember the names of cerebral cortex, basal nuclei or basal ganglion, thalamus, hypothalamus, stem. after this cerebral cortex, something which is continued down, but before the starting of the spinal cord, here we call it as this area between just outside the cortex and at the before the beginning of the spinal cord, this area called as brainstem. Brainstem. So which consists of three structures: midbrain, pons, medulla. And on the back side, you will find a structure we call it as cerebellum. Cerebellum or small brain. I will show you in the picture in the next slide. So forebrain, which is consist of cerebrum, which is having two parts: cerebral cortex, the outer area, basal nuclei, the thing which is present in the center, and diencephalon, which is nothing but thalamus and hypothalamus. All of them are here. All of them are here. So cortex, nuclei, basal ganglia or nuclei, then thalamus and hypothalamus. All of them are here in this area. Whereas the area in continuation of the cortex or cerebrum is the brain stem. This brain stem consists of midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. And continuation of the medulla oblongata will be as a spinal cord. Okay, this will be clear in this picture now. You will see this is outer area, folded area. Folding is there. Everything is folding here. So this folded area is called as the cerebral cortex. In the center of the cerebral cortex, there are nuclei. We call it as basal nuclei in the center. And there is hypothalamus again here, present here, hypothalamus. And there is thalamus also. Where is thalamus? Here. All of them are present within the cerebral cortex. Then continuation of this area will be pons, medulla oblongata, and midbrain. This is called as the brainstem. This is called as the brainstem, which contains midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. So midbrain is here, then pons, then medulla oblongata, and which will continue as spinal cord. This is how the areas of the brain are divided. Cerebrum consists of 80% of the brain weight. So outer area consists of 80% of the brain weight. Outer layer, that is the cerebral cortex of the brain, is highly convoluted. Convoluted means folded. It is highly folded. That's why you will see in the next picture that they are thrown into folds, where the one which is going up, or you can say mountain, like a mountain, huh? And something which is in between the two mountains. What we call it as valleys, wadi. Sorry. So fold will make them two structures. Some are mountains, some are valleys. So the one which is mountain, they are called as gyri. The name is called as gyri, or single is known as gyrus. Gyrus is one, gyri are many. These are the gyri. And sulci or sulcus. These are the sulcus. 1, 2, 3. Valleys, depressions, ridges and depression. Because of the folding, the brain matter is converted into two areas. One is the one which is coming up is the gyri, and the one which is going down, the wadi, is called as the sulci. So sulcus and gyrus. Singular and plural are gyri and gyrus, or sulci or sulcus. This is how you will see. You can see it is a real picture showing you it is folded. It is folded here. And because of this folding, there are some areas which is coming up, which is called as gyri, and some areas which is going down. These are called as the sulci. You can see it here. These are the all gyri, and the black part, the area which is going here, also this is sulcus. Because of the folding of the brain matter. And the basal nuclei are present deep in the cerebrum. Within the cerebrum, deeper down. So there is a folding here, but here in this matter, in the center, there are basal nuclei. What is the function of basal nuclei? Is to coordinate the movement and to maintain the muscle tone, to maintain or regulate the muscle tone. Coordination. Coordination means when one muscle is contracting, second muscle should relax at the same time, or when there is a flexion is occurring on the other side, there should be some extension so that the movement will be smooth. This sequence of events, this is known as coordination. So coordination of the movement is the function of basal nuclei. Also, they are responsible for keeping and regulating the tone of the muscle. What is tone of the muscle? Muscle tone. What is muscle tone?
The shape of the muscle.
Hmm?
The shape of the muscle, maybe?
Exactly. Good. This is the shape of the muscle usually. It is the end result of the tone. Tone means why the shape of the muscle is in a proper flexion or extension or contracted or relaxed because of because of some degree of contraction. Always, sorry, there is some degree of contraction is there in the muscle. Then only the muscle will remain in its shape. So this some degree of contraction is known as tone. Is known as tone. Or another definition, proper definition is partial state of contraction. Partial state of contraction. State of contraction of the muscle. If completely relaxed, if this muscle is completely relaxed, it will become like a ball. Come down here. If it is remain in contracted state at some place, it will give you the proper shape to the to the muscle. What is the function of tone? Is to maintain the joint position. Suppose this is a joint, so there are muscles here, there are muscles on the other side, there are muscles on the forearm also. This is the coordination between these four muscles will keep the joint or elbow in this position, flexed or semi-flexed position. So muscle tone is responsible for giving a proper position to the joint. If you are not doing anything, if you are sitting, then your back muscles are contracted, your leg muscles are on the flexor side, it will be a little bit contracted, extensor side, there may be a little bit relaxed. So this some state of some contraction is known as tone. Some tone, some contraction is called as the tone. Partial means half, a part. Okay, coming to the second part, that is called as diencephalon, which consists of two important organs or areas which are called as thalamus and hypothalamus. The function of thalamus is every sensory information passes through the thalamus. What is the meaning of sensory information? Any incoming signal should pass through a structure called as thalamus. So all sensory information. What sensory information? Touch, pain, temperature, joint position, joint sense. All these are the information. Touch sensation, pain sensation, position of the joint sensation. All this information is supplied to the brain through the spinal cord, and it passes through an area we call it as thalamus, and it is regulating these sensation. Also, crude awareness of sensation. Crude awareness means what? Suppose you touch to the skin, then touch sensation will be felt, but where exactly it is touched, you may not be knowing. So this is called as crude awareness of sensation. You are feeling some sensation, but where exactly, localization is not there. That's why it is called as crude awareness. This is a function of thalamus. Whereas hypothalamus is doing lot of functions like regulating the temperature of the body, regulating the thirst, water content of the body in the form of thirst or in the form of or hunger. All these are sensations,
Also, doctor, the hormones. Is it?
hormones. Yes, also
Yeah.
hormones. Here, few are given. Few are given. Temperature, water intake, food intake, all regulated are regulated by the hypothalamus, whereas sensory information is regulated by the thalamus. Then comes the stem, the connected part, the part which is below the cerebrum and above the spinal cord. In between, you will have cerebrum here, and you have got a spinal cord here, and in between, you will have brain stem. What it contains? It contains three structures: midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. If you see it on the front side, it will look like this area. This is the medulla actually and central part. So it is continuous below as a spinal cord. Here after this, it will be continued as a spinal cord. What are the functions of brainstem? Majority of the cranial nerves are coming from this area. There are two here structures. So majority of the cranial nerves are coming from the brain stem. Cranial nerves which are supplying to the face muscles or to the muscles of the ear, muscles of the tongue. These are cranial nerves. So cranial nerves, they are supplying to the they are coming from the brain stem. They are also, there are centers in the medulla oblongata which are responsible for controlling the activity of the cardiovascular system, respiratory system, and also digestive system. So cardiovascular respiratory control centers are here. Regulators are here in the medulla oblongata or in the brainstem, you can say. Also, some of the postural reflexes are corrected by this area, that is the brainstem. Also, sleep and wakeful cycles are regulated by the neurons in this area, reticular activating system. We have got a reticular activating system located here, which is responsible for wakeful and sleep cycles. When we become tired, we feel sleepy. When sleep is over, maybe after 6 or 7 hours, we with a small sensation we can wake up. So sleep wakeful cycle is nothing but the interaction of the neurons in this area, that is in the brain stem, which is also known as reticular activating system. It is a function of brain stem. Then comes the, in layman term, this cerebellum is known as small brain. In layman terminology, sorry, here, sitting at the back, something like that. This is called as the cerebellum. Cerebellum is attached on the back portion of the brain stem, and function is balancing the body. When the person is in the state of walking or just standing, this is making the balance of the body. Regulating again the muscle tone and coordination of the movement. Suppose I throw a ball, you will catch it. How you will catch it? You see it, your muscles will contract and you will grab the ball. This is coordination between your eyes and your muscles. So all this is the function of cerebellum. Also, various things like writing. Even I write, suppose A, B, C. So this letter, how much I have to contract, how much I have to relax, all commands are given by the cerebellum. So even writing, playing piano or something, all these are the skillful movement, planned skillful movements are functions of cerebellum. Example like dancing. In dance, there are some steps we have to coordinate the muscles and give the proper step. This is also done through training through the cerebellum. Driving, swimming, all these are the example of coordination movement or planned skillful movement. These are controlled by cerebellum. So if there is a damage to the cerebellum, what will happen? If cerebellum get damaged, what you will feel?
Nothing.
You
Because
will
no,
not feel.
you will be damaged. So I mean, like you will be like maybe paralyzed.
Not
Yeah.
paralyzed. You are having sensation, but you cannot walk properly. You will walk like a
Yes. Yes.
drunk person. Drunk, you know, person after drinking alcohol
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
cannot move in one line. Why? Because his coordination is disturbed. So in cerebellar damage also, person cannot stay erect. If you ask him to stay erect, he may fall down. Or when if he is staying erect, if you ask him to run on a line, one single line, just show him a line in the floor and ask him to walk on the line. He cannot walk on the same line. He will go right, he will go left, and trying to come into the center. So this is happening when cerebellum get damaged. Or if you throw something to him, he cannot catch. Or simple, he cannot button, close the buttons here. Cannot do, cannot comb, because coordination is required to put the proper amount of action. This is a cerebellar function. Okay.
Yes, doctor. Clear.
Okay. Cerebellum is a big, like a, mass of tissues, but it is divided into two halves, right half and a left half. So we call them as cerebrum hemisphere. Hemi means half. Cerebral hemisphere. Although it is not like a sphere, not like a round, but we call them as one half here. Suppose this is, I'm seeing it from the above. This is how it look like. So left half and right half of the brain. This is called as right and left hemisphere of the brain. But what is there in connection in between? Connecting these two hemisphere is a structure, we call it as corpus callosum. A structure is there, a mass of tissue is there, which is connecting these two halves, two hemisphere. We call it as right and left cerebral hemisphere, and in between them, a connecting pathway or a bridge is there. This bridge is known as corpus callosum, which is nothing but the neurons. They are coming from one area to other area. So 3 millions of new axons are there connecting the two cerebral hemisphere, which is this area is known as corpus callosum. So cerebral cortex, it is the outer shell of the gray matter. Okay, there are two colors, gray and white. Gray and white. Gray means it is due to the cell body of the neuron. White is due to because of the axon. So cell body is lying here and the axon is lying here. So this area will become gray. This area will become white. I will show you in the picture now. Okay, this is the cut section of sagittal section. Usually this is cutting the brain into two halves. So you will see that this is the cortex which is folded in different sulci and gyri. And this area which is we were talking about is the corpus callosum, the area which is connecting to the two cerebral hemisphere. And you will see these are the hollow cavities, lateral ventricle. These are the hollow cavities. And here it is the brainstem, pons and medulla oblongata, and continuation as spinal cord here. And on the back side, you will see this is a cerebellum. Cerebellum. So what is mean by white matter and what is mean by gray matter? Cerebral cortex, which consists of cell bodies and then dendrites, as well as connective tissues and glial cell, will make the area as gray. And what is mean by white matter? It is the myelinated nerve fiber or axon. It is because of the lipid present in the myelin sheath will make it gray and make it white. So I will show you the picture now. Yeah, here if you cut the brain into the coronal section, you will see this is gray matter and this is white matter. Okay, so gray consists of cell bodies, white matter consists of the of the axon. You will see these are the basal nuclei present here in the center, and these are the cavities, lateral ventricle. And the blue one is the cavities, and these are the thalamus and hypothalamus. So gray matter of the cerebral cortex is like a computer of the CNS, which consists of some processing units. Yani cells are there, cell bodies are there. White matters are just like a wires which are carrying the information from the computer to other parts or to the periphery. Okay, now the whole cerebral cortex, or you can say cerebrum, we cannot study them together. We cannot study them as a whole. So we have to divide them into some areas. We have to divide them into some lobes. You can say some lobes we can divide 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. What are these lobes? These lobes are frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital. If you divide the whole cerebrum, this area is called as the frontal lobe because it's in the front. This area is called as the occipital lobe because this is in the occipital bone, the backside of the skull. And this area is called as the temporal. This is in the temporal side of your bone, temporal bone in connection with the temporal bone. And this area is called as the parietal lobe. So this is how the brain is divided into 4 lobes. Frontal, which is in the front. Occipital, which is at the back. Temporal is just above the ear area here, and remaining on the opposite upper side, that is in front, behind the frontal lobe, and in front of the occipital lobe is the parietal lobe. I will show you the picture now. This is how this actually it is not present in this color, but just to show you, highlight them, that these are the lobes. Frontal, this is the frontal, this is parietal, this is temporal, this is occipital. Now you may be asking me how I can say this area is frontal, not this area, or maybe not this area, because there is a marking here. This is the marking which divide frontal from the from the parietal, and this is nothing but a sulcus, a depression. This is a sulcus. Sorry. So this sulcus is dividing the brain into 2 lobes, frontal and parietal. What is this sulcus is known as? The name of this sulcus is central sulcus. So central sulcus will divide frontal with the parietal. Again, there is a one more sulcus is found here. You will see here. This is the sulcus, the black part in the center, in between the frontal and the temporal. This is called as the lateral sulcus. Lateral sulcus. Lateral sulcus will divide into temporal and frontal. And there is one more occipitocalcarine sulcus is found here, which is dividing from parietal to the occipital lobe. So because of these sulci, they will divide the brain into different lobes. So central sulcus is separating the frontal from the parietal lobe, and the frontal lobe, which is located in front and at the top, it consists of an area we call it as motor cortex. So if you remember, this is the central sulcus, So this is area is called as the motor cortex. This area is called as the area in front of the central sulcus is, or we call it as precentral gyrus, especially here, this area. I will show you that this is a sulcus and this is a gyrus. So this is a precentral gyrus. Area in front of the central sulcus is the motor cortex, which will control the motor activity, movement of the body. Also movement of the tongue muscles. So speech area, motor speech area is present in the frontal lobe. Also it is responsible for thoughts and emotions here, the frontal lobe. So frontal lobe performs motor activity, motor speech, and elaboration of the thought. These are few. Many you will find in the CNS block. Parietal lobe, the area behind the frontal and in front of the occipital. This area. This area is parietal lobe, which is behind the central sulcus. You will found post-central gyrus. This area post-central gyrus is a sensory cortex. It is a sensory cortex, only this area. And there is a temporal lobe here, which is responsible for hearing. Hearing center is situated here, or it is also known as auditory cortex. So auditory cortex in the temporal lobe, just above the ear, you can say. Whereas occipital lobe, the area which is extremely behind this area, this is called as occipital lobe, and this is responsible for visual sensation. So visual cortex is also known as visual cortex. Now you may be asking how we know that this is for visual and this is for auditory, or this is for motor and this is for sensory, because scientists has done several work. They have taken pictures from here to show that these areas will get activated. The picture photographs will show that activity is increased in these areas because of motor, because of hearing, because of thinking, because of sensation. So that's why they name them as areas. And these areas are given by a person who is known as Broca, whose name is Broca. And these areas are called as Broca's area. Broca's area. You will learn it in CNS block. We are not telling you in this block because it's too much information. You just remember 4 lobes are there: frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital. Frontal for motor activity and speech, temporal for hearing, occipital for visual, visual cortex is there, and parietal is for sensory information. Just like this. At this level, at foundation level, you have to just describe brief. So primary motor area is located before the central sulcus. That's why it is called as precentral gyrus, and it is in the frontal lobe. Control, what is the function of the motor cortex? It is controlling the movement. Now movement of opposite side of the body. Suppose I will draw it in front now. This is a brain divided into two spaces, two lobes, right and the left. Suppose this is a primary motor area. So this is controlling the activity of the opposite half of the body. Here is the arm. So it will control, this is left and this is right arm, right hand, suppose. So activity of the right hand is controlled by the left lobe of the cerebral cortex. Similarly, right lobe will control the activity of the left hand. So they are controlling the movement of opposite half of the body. Now you tell me, if suppose I have a brain stroke or hemorrhage or some damage here, where will be the loss of movement?
Right hand.
Right hand. So left lobe of the brain, if it is damaged, your right hand will not be able to function properly. If left lobe of the brain is damaged, your right side of the if the right lobe is damaged, left hand will not function properly. So paralysis will occur. Paralysis, loss of power, loss of muscle power is known as paralysis. Not able to move it properly. So motor tracts originating from the right motor cortex crosses to the opposite side at the level of the medulla and then go down to the spinal cord to terminate on the efferent motor neuron. So this is how the fibers which are starting from here, we call them as tract. Tract are nothing but the neurons, collection of neurons starting from one area and supplying to a specific area. This is making a tract. So these are called as the motor tracts. So motor tracts will be crossing at the level of the medulla oblongata. Here there will be crossing here. So primary motor area presentation is not equal. If you say this is the brain motor area, so whole is motor area. Whole is primary motor area. But suppose there are some areas here only controlling hand. They are only controlling hand. Here it is controlling the trunk. Here the fibers are controlling the limbs, lower limb. Like that. But they are not equally represented. Meaning some part of the body will be given larger area, some part of the body will be given very smaller area. You will understand by seeing this picture. So if you cut the brain into the coronal section like this, you will see the area responsible for face is very big. On the cortex, area responsible for controlling the muscles of the face is very big. Whereas area controlling the hand is also very big. Hand is also very big. Plus, you will see very small area related to the trunk and to the lower limb. Why? Why it is so? Why it is unequally distributed? Any idea?
Again, doctor, what is the question?
The question is, if you cut the brain into coronal section, you will see that this whole area is responsible for this area, the one which is showing as a face, is responsible
Yes.
for controlling the face. This area, this much area is responsible for controlling the hand. But this small area is controlling the remaining part of the body, like the trunk and the limb. Why? Why not every special area is given a special amount?
Is it away from the... والله, I don't know. I think so. يعني away والله, I don't know.
Yes. The reason is the facial expression require very delicate control. Suppose I am become angry, my face will show. Even very little movement of the muscles will show. If I am happy, my face will show. This is very delicate, small or precise control of the activity is there. So it requires lot of work. If you have only controlling general population, you will not have you don't require a big surface area. But if you are controlling a very precise activity like writing, like singing, where muscles will control in a very small steps or maybe very precise control. So that's why it requires larger coordination, large number of neurons are required. So facial expression plus speech, all this is required very precise control. That's why a large area is given. Large number of neurons will be involved in this activity. Similarly, hand area, movement of the hand, gripping, all these require small muscles to control very precisely. That's why large number of neurons are responsible for it. Whereas trunk, just we have to contract the muscle so that the trunk will be in erect position. So that's why a small area is given for the trunk. Depending upon how many neurons are required for controlling these activities, this different uh, positions are given for on the cortex. This picture is known as homunculus. It is the homunculus. What is homunculus is nothing but the representation of the body part on the brain, on the cortex. So how the face is represented, how the mouth is represented, how the muscle is represented of the back or this is represented, and if you draw it a picture in the picture form, it is known as homunculus, human body representation over the cerebral cortex. So the function of primary motor cortex is to control the activity, motor activity. So damage to the right motor cortex will cause paralysis or loss of power. Another name for paralysis is loss of power. I cannot move my hand or whole limb or the whole left side or right side of the body. This is called as paralysis, and it will occur on the left side. If damage is on the right side, left side will be paralyzed. Opposite to that, if left motor cortex will be uh, more, if damage to the left motor cortex, paralysis will be on the right side or loss of power on the right half of the body muscles. Similarly, somatosensory area or the area for sensation, detection of sensation is also present on the cerebral cortex, but it is present behind the central sulcus. We call it as post-central gyrus. We call it as post-central gyrus. If you remember the picture of the brain, this is the central sulcus. So this is motor and this is sensory. Sorry, behind the central sulcus, post-central gyrus. And again, here, not all the body parts are represented equally. Not all the body parts are given equal share. Rather, you will see that hand and fingers are given larger area. Face and tongue is given larger area, whereas the remaining trunk is given very smaller area. Similar to the motor homunculus, you will see sensory homunculus. So face is given larger area. So sensation from the face is very precise. It can be detected by the small amount. Even a hair is touched on the surface, you will see you can easily detect because the number of receptors are many. Number of sensory receptors are more for the face. That's why facial area is given more. Even by touch, if you want to feel anything, you use your hands. So that's why the hand area is given also larger because of the more sensory receptors. And small area is given for the remaining trunk and foot area. So this is known as sensory homunculus. Previously it was motor homunculus. This is sensory homunculus. Also, right side of the sensory cortex will receive the information from the left half of the body. Left sensory cortex will receive the information from right half of the body. So again, there is a crossing. There is opposite control because the sensory pathways. Suppose here is the right hand. Sorry, my drawing is very bad. So right hand, and here is the left hand. So if there is a touch here, it will go to the spinal cord and it will go to the opposite side. Suppose this is the center. So touch sensation from left side will go and cross at the spinal cord into the left area and then ascend up and give the information to the brain. So this is right side, this is left side. So information from left side is going to the right cerebral cortex. Similarly, from the right hand, the information will come here, cross to the opposite side and then ascend and supply to the left side. So there is a crossing of information, crossing of fibers, or crossing of sensory tracts is occurring. That's why if there is a damage to this area, left side, you will not able to feel sensation from the right hand. If there is damage to the right cortex, you will not able to feel the sensation from the left hand. Okay, this is how opposite control is there. Here it is shown. Damage to the sensory cortex in the left side, left hemisphere will have sensory deficit of the right side of the body, or damage to the sensory cortex of the right hemisphere will have loss of sensation of the left side of the body. Okay. If you combine them together, both, you will see that this is motor homunculus, this is sensory homunculus. Information from sensory cortex will be represented in this fashion. In this, or motor activity of the different body parts is represented in the motor cortex. This is the front. So in the front, you will have motor activity. In the behind the central sulcus, you will have sensory activities. Okay. Any question?
Clear, doctor.
Good. If you have any difficulty, any question, please feel free to ask me anytime.
Doctor, the primary motor cortex is always the one on the left, right?
No. Motor cortex is placed both sides, as right as well as left.
Okay. I get it. I saw the image.
Yeah, here. So this is the brain, right half and left half. Right half controlling the activity of the left side of the body, whereas left half is controlling the activity of the right side of the body. Similarly, this is for motor activity. This is in the primary motor area, which is precentral gyrus. Similarly, for sensation, it is control is behind the central sulcus or post-central gyrus. So sensory information from the left side of the body is delivered to the right cortex, and sensory information from the right half of the body is delivered or perceived on the left sensory cortex. Okay.
Yes, got it, doctor. Yes, thank you.
Any other question? Any question?
No, thank you very much, Doctor.
So I will stop recording and this will be available for you